Hey everyone, today's unboxing is on Prolon. I just did a video on fasting mimicking diet and its benefits. Please check it out. I'll put a link down below. But Prolon. So I attended this longevity conference. Anti-aging group usually presents once a year in Las Vegas or some big place. And I met the Prolon person. Now I have been watching Walter Longo even before he released his book, The Longevity Diet in the US. Watching him since 2017. And communicating with him on Facebook and trying to get a gauge for if fasting is actually helpful, and the data says it is. Now, he's been able to compress it down into 5 days, and the reasons being in my video, please check it out. But I think that's so novel. Now, you don't have to do Prolon. In fact, I just went online to check the price for this thing, and it is a little expensive. $225 on Prolon's website, I believe. I think healthcare workers get something of a discount. My patients I'll probably offer, or my subscribers I'll offer a discount. I haven't talked to Prolon yet, but you really have to, I'm not going to sell anything that doesn't make sense. I'm going to try it myself. I just have to get past I just switched over to being vegan. I want to see the results of being vegan on a 3 and 6 month blood test and CT scan of the heart, and I'll see if I can, after that, start this and see if there's any more benefit I can conjure up. So the idea of this thing, well, it's a pretty cool box. It comes in 5 different tiny boxes and a bottle for mixing. So let's see, which is really cool, because if you want to do it, you don't have to do this to get the fasting mimicking diet benefits. You can actually work your own magic with a mostly whole food plant-based diet. Start with 1,090 kilocalories on the first day, and then break it down to 725 kilocalories on day 2 to 5, and you're good. Now, here's the instructions, which is pretty cool. Hopefully you can pick that up. And there's a bigger form here, but what was interesting was in the instructions from the Prolon. This came in the box, and again, there's a repetition of the homework, or at least the instructions. But on the instructions, it tells you how to start with day 1 and then go on. But right here in the transition diet, that's day 6. It says, "Do not be tempted to binge." So I think that's kind of cool, because the benefits of when stem cells, those baby cells that you only get to turn on either with somebody injects it into your knee, or if you get a bone marrow, if you have leukemia, or if you're born. So when we're born in little embryos, you have these baby cells called stem cells, and they are kept in a very safe place. And they are sent into the bloodstream to turn into different cells: heart cells, brain cells, immune cells, lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, bone, muscle. So it's pretty cool. They have the genetics and the potential for making any cell you want. Now, the body usually doesn't turn them on anymore after birth, except for what Longo found in his study. So the idea for fasting mimicking is during the 5 days, during this 5-day thing, of restriction, you shut down the body's nutrition, and you tell the good cells, time to pack it up, get rid of the riffraff, any cell that's kind of half-assed, we're getting rid of you, apoptosis. And you tell the cancer cells, you actually piss off the cancer cells, because cancer cells love to take in glucose. They love to take in glucose. Some of them like to take in ketones, but mostly glucose. And that's why the keto practitioners are probably at an advantage, because they can starve out some cancer cells. But again, cancer cells learn to adapt, and when they adapt to, hopefully they don't adapt fast enough to the decreased caloric intake, the fuel supply, and then by the time the 6th, 7th, and 8th day come after that, so it's 5 days of a fast, and essentially 25 days of eating right. You can't go back, as the instructions say, you can't go, don't be tempted to binge, because that's the time when you have the body start to make stem cells or rejuvenate cells to either take the place of cancer or bad lymphocytes. So usually cancer will blossom because the cells have learned to hide from the lymphocytes, the natural killer cells. That's how it works. You get cells in you that hunt for infection and cells in you that hunt for cancer-looking cells to destroy them before they reproduce too much. And somehow cancer cells, this is one theory, somehow cancer cells can code to fool the lymphocytes into thinking, oh, we're normal. So the lymphocyte comes along, the bouncer comes along and says, okay, I can't find anybody here, so it goes off. And it misses the cancer cell. So what happens sometimes with the theory, at least in Longo's book, and his data, which has been proven and reproduced in animal, yeast, mice, and humans now, is that when you get to that point of the 6th day on, and then you get a flooding of healthy nutrient into the system that's been fasted, suddenly all the stem cells start to work, and any cell that died off during the 5-day, that's that apoptosis thing, when you have a programmed cell death, any cell that died off, now it comes back as far as the stem cells recreating better cells than when you first started. So imagine those lymphocytes that didn't recognize the cancer. Suddenly you have new lymphocytes that are ready and charged, and they know, they're not fooled. They know exactly what cancer looks like, what an infection looks like, and they take over. Then they start to kill cancer. And while the cancer cells itself, they are starting to die too, because they have programmed cell death somewhat, and you starved them out, you irritated them, and now they can be found. So that's the beauty of this. And it's not just cancer. So some of you are just doing this because you're trying to lose weight. You're plateaued. Or maybe you have an autoimmune issue like multiple sclerosis or Crohn's disease or fibromyalgia. Whatever it is, if you're trying this, then you've probably hit the wall, I assume, like most Americans. Most Americans, if I was to tell my patients, I want you to go 1,090 on the first day and then 725 on day 2 to 5. I'm pretty sure most people will be able to do that. But it usually well, it's a shorter time period than just fasting all your life. I currently fast, so I usually try to shoot for, in addition to this vegan practice, 10 hours of eating and 14 hours of fasting. And it serves me well, but I do notice the stomach growling, and sometimes at parties I'm a little remiss that I can't indulge. But I have to have an endpoint, and I have an endpoint with the blood testing. I don't know if I could do this forever. And that's what I think this is beautiful for, because most of my patients lose the motivation. Imagine trying to do this where you're cutting down from an average American 3,000 or 2,500 calories per day, kilocalories per day, and you're going to 1,000. And then in the next ensuing days until the 5th day, you're 725. That's almost 1/3 of what you used to eat, and you're going to be hungry. So if you paused and clicked on the menu, there's not much to eat. And I can guarantee you, I'm looking at day 5 thinking, whew, I'm going to be hungry and grouchy probably. That's normal, but it's only 5 days. And if I didn't want to do this expensive box, I just do it with food because I'm very good with it. But you have to be good with counting kilocalories of food, knowing how to choose mostly whole food, plant-based. So if you're watching this video because you're hitting the wall and no other diet has worked, the likelihood is you've tried keto, paleo, Atkins, vegetarian, grapefruit, a water fast. If some of you did that, that's crazy, but and dangerous. And that was one of the things that Longo had said. He wanted to do this to make sure that we had benefit to fasting. Number 2, to provide something that's not dangerous with side effects. So fasting, so like this. One thing with fasting is that if you're hypoglycemic and you're diabetic, you're going to go down, especially with medicine, so be careful. Another thing, which is not really life-threatening, are gallstones. If gallstones, once they're formed, theoretically you can't get rid of them, you have to have surgery. So, and very painful when you have your first one. And there's a couple others as far as the way the brain works, but obviously not life-threatening. But now that we have data, and if the data says that there's benefit, then it's worth it. At least it makes it novelty to think, oh, 5 days. But if you were never in any sports like boxing, wrestling, gymnastics, MMA, if you've never participated or competed in those sports, then you might not understand how to get through the fast. And it's very tough for an average American. My wrestlers, my martial artists, my gymnasts, they know that there's an end point. So if it's a month away, they'll cut down, cut down, cut down. I have some wrestlers that cut massively down, even to the point of not drinking and spitting in a cup and wearing a sweatsuit. but they can do that, which is very difficult. It challenges the motivation and the brain, but they can do that because there's an endpoint. If you have a loose endpoint and you don't buy this, you just do the diet thing, or if you just did fasting or keto and you don't have a great endpoint, you just have an endpoint of like, I want to lose 100 pounds, that's sometimes intangible. Weight Watchers is good. They don't necessarily, they give you a goal, a realistic goal, and they help you shoot down to that goal. They have meetings, they have lectures, they have guides, they have an app. I think it's nice because you can get support while you're suffering, because you will suffer. By the 4th and 5th day, I'm probably going to be really grouchy, so I have to time this properly. But it's exciting because, again, it's novelty. So if you can't do it on your own with your other attempts in the past, 5 days might sound like it's novelty and doable, but if it's not, then that's when you buy this. So I think in the normal human response, we're all built like kids to look forward to an endpoint. And when you get a box and the endpoint comes in something like this, it is fancy. I don't know if it's worth 225 bucks. I think my health is worth 225 bucks. But here's essentially, so it's 5 boxes in this one box. 5 boxes and a bottle. And the 5 boxes, the first box is essentially like this. And if you open it up, it's got bars in it, NutriBars. These are L bars, I believe they're called. L bars, nice nutrient. And then you have some teas, lemon and spearmint teas. That's for the evening part. Let me just show you the thing again. That is the schedule. So you can see up here should be where day 1 starts. So you can see it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then there's drink at the bottom. It's blue. And the blue, I'll show you later. But there's also algae. This is, again, mostly whole food, plant-based. Mostly plant-based. It's not whole food. It's compressed. And then you have kale crackers and algal, I think it's oil capsules. And I saw these before, minestrone soups. Soup blend, olives, minestrone blend, tomato soup, all in powder. So some of this you have to heat up in a stove. The rest of it you can actually put in the bottled water. And that's your first day. It looks encompassing and it's kind of busy, but that's kind of cool because you have a whole bunch of stuff that you can rely on. You open up a little at a time and you look forward to it, I think. It makes it, again, novelty will keep you engaged. And if you're engaged, you'll be excited. And when you're excited, you're motivated. I think morale is very important. If you, in combat or in the military, when morale is broken, you will have attrition and you'll lose the war. Because even if the general's gung-ho and the commanders are gung-ho, if the infantry morale is broken, like Russia in World War II, you will fail your tactics and strategy. So that was day 1. This is day 2, and this is essentially, this is the mimic of the day 3, 4, and 5. So I just opened this one. So day 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have this little bottle, the L drink, and it's kind of cool. You mix it in the big bottle that I have, depending on your weight. So this is what that blue part was. You mix in here, and depending on your weight, you toss the rest of it, and you drink this all day, which is the blue here. It has a nutrient in it, some basic chemicals, not chemicals, basic nutrients, vitamins. There's more teas, hibiscus, spearmint, lemon. So teas are nice antioxidants, calm the stomach, old Chinese, and then more L bars. Whoops. And what is this? See, it's so exciting to see this stuff. Now, I'm sure if I'm super hungry and I'm bored to death, it's not going to be exciting. It's going to be, how am I going to get past this thing? So, more of the olives again. It feels like, yeah, there's olives in there. Olives again. I wonder why the olives are there, but minestrone soup. And quinoa and minestrone, pretty cool. What's this? Oh, more olives again. So this is essentially what the rest of the 2nd to the 5th day boxes look like. So there's more stuff in here. Oh, I opened this already, L-bar. So, and that is it. So you do that for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th days, and hopefully you make it to the 6th. You will make it to the 6th day, and it'll be exciting. Again, the temptation is you've been starving and you've counted down the days and you're looking forward to it, but that's when that's when you have to remember the stem cells are starting to rejuvenate. Bone marrow. So bone marrow and lymphoid tissue, those are the cells, those are the areas that make cells that fight cancer, fight infection. If they're going awry or not working properly, they'll fight you. That's like rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So the shock to the system is to get all that riffraff, all the poorly functioning cells that are yours out of you and destroyed. And then the regular cells that are hopefully functioning okay, kind of going into dormancy and protection. When it goes into dormancy, it just functions with minimal effort. That's why, as that story was that Walter Longo said, if it's like a train that goes from point A to point B and the train runs out of fuel, it starts, or coal, it starts to burn unneeded things like furniture, wooden fixtures, any fuel in the train is burned up and utilized to get that train to the next station so that it can be rebuilt and refueled again. Well, this fasting is the same thing. It initiates some apoptosis or cell death, the bad cells. It somewhat starves out the cancer cells, and then on that refeed phase, you start to produce new cells that don't attack anymore, new cells that don't attack your own body if you're autoimmune. That's what I was talking about. Or new cells that learn and remember how to recognize cancer and start attacking cancer more aggressively. The information in cell metabolism showed that chemo and fasting mimicking diet had better outcomes than just chemo alone. So you have to use it in combination. Now, if you're not a cancer survivor or cancer fighting, then you can still have benefit to this. The cool benefit is that the body learns to shrink organs, like a big liver, fatty liver, oversized heart. You can shrink organs during the 5 days and then put out new cells to clean up the riffraff and start changing your immune profile after that on the refeed phase. I would try to always shoot for 25 days of eating better than you did before, which is important for fasting. I always tell patients when they go into any kind of fasting practice, start looking at what you're going to do when you're finished with your fast. Because if you dovetail back into the crappy diet that you did before, you'll just be at the same place. You might lose 10 pounds, but you're going to gain 15 after that. So changing diet. So this is cool too. It's the ingredients that are found in the Prolon boxes, and it has a breakdown. Again, I saw somebody not like this online, and I can see why. Again, it's in a box. You can do it. You don't have to do this. Like I said, you can do it on your own with just counting calories, knowing what to pick and choose in your foods, and then being patient. So either way, I'd say this is, I'm going to try it. Probably, I think I have 1 more month to finish up my vegan practice. Then I'll probably document how I go with this 5-day. I probably wouldn't do it on a Monday because I'm busy in the office. That's already stressful, and to initiate stress during another eating or at least fasting during a stressful day, probably not a good idea. I'd probably do it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I finish on a Sunday. I think that's what I would do. But we'll see. I'll post it. Otherwise, I give this a thumbs up because it's novelty. It's exciting. It's so cookbook that you can't go wrong. As far as the price, if you're a patient, I'm going to talk to the Prolon guys. Hopefully they'll let me buy at discount, which I got this at discount because I'm a physician. But my patients and my subscribers, I'll probably offer the same thing. Again, if this works. If it doesn't work, and that's where the studies have shown improvement with 3 cycles. That means 5 days for 3 months. Now, the suggestion is you can probably do 5 days every 3 months. If you're not a cancer survivor, not fighting chemotherapy or with chemotherapy, once every 3 months might be something to consider, once every 6 months, just to reset. But I will let you know how it goes, and we'll probably see as this fasting mimicking diet takes off, probably see more and more people posting their successes. Hopefully this will be a great thing.